screaming. Oh, hello there, you lucky devils. I'm early for a change because I'm going to try to squeeze in a twofer. I'm going to do this episode on the members-only YouTube. Then I'm going to do a live stream on Rumble. Maybe I'll take you through the rest of the scenes you need to see in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And then the next episode on Rumble I'll use clips from that documentary about Polyakov that I'm like sitting there going, what the fuck did you think you were doing? So, pardon my language, but... or not. No, so let's, and when I'm on Rumble, I'll either do that or I'll talk about the news on Rumble. Because I want to play clips from Fakebook and ScrewTube, places like that. But I might want to wait a couple more days for a little bit more news to come out. Because, did you notice, this was, when I start to record the show, I forgot to look this up. What's his name? Mike Waltz. Out. Mike Waltz News. Here we go. So let me get ready to record, okay? Let me back up a slide. Let me just put this over here. And I'll press record. For whatever that's worth. So I will, at the end of this, when I stop recording, stay on for a few minutes, and I will set up the Rumble live stream, and then I'll give you the link to head over there. You need to follow that Rumble channel anyway, because that's where Professor Dad, my ripoff of Paul Harvey and Phil Donahue is going to be over there on Rumble. So I'll start doing the news over there. Maybe I won't do it. I want to see what happens next. So let me do this.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Why do I do this shtick for you
violation of
guys?
secure communication procedures, Commodore.
So we just went ahead and fixed the glitch.
Oh, yeah?
There is no America. There is no democracy.
Our fifth objective, a new world order.
There are no nations. There are no languages. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West.
Right-wing conspiracy.
What do you call it when the assassins accuse the assassin?
A new world order.
Thank you for plugging in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
Well, just a second there, Professor. We fixed the glitch.
I'm your host, Professor Thomas Henry Horan.
He reads everything.
Hello there, my beautiful, bountiful, bodacious boosters. You better bet your bippies he reads everything. To wit. So Mike Waltz is out as National Security Advisor. And Stephen Miller will replace him. A Cheneyite, was it something I said? I only ask because I pointed out that why would Trump appoint a Cheneyite after Cheney tried to shoot Trump? Why would he appoint a Cheneyite to be his national security advisor unless he had made some kind of a deal, Trump got the message. And I wondered how long it would last. And this whole Signalgate thing looked a little fake. And that journalist being included, why did that journalist rat him out? Like, it's all to make Trump look bad, right? But who, and so he has gotten rid of Waltz and Waltz's deputy, Wong, the one a lot of people said probably is the one who put that phone number on Waltz's phone in the first place. But instead, they're all gone. But now Waltz is going to be U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, which in MAGA world is Siberia, right? So, but the Trump administration's calling it a promotion. and everyone's saying bullshit. Well, does that make Trump look bad or make Waltz look bad? Here's the thing. What did I tell you about him and Jane in Butler, Pennsylvania? What did I tell you? Look at the way Trump is smiling at Miller in this picture. I wondered why he would swallow a Cheneyite to be his national security advisor. Because the national security advisor to the president pretty much runs the day-to-day of the American global imperial military. The national security advisor pretty much runs the show. So I thought Trump had just caved in that much to appoint Waltz, let alone Hegseth, but Waltz in particular. Remember what I said? I wonder if somebody's been watching the Stones Unturned podcast. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. The company operates the global economy. One of my questions is Trump working against the company or simply trying to take over the company? You tell me. I don't know. But I want to show you some clips. I want to show you a clip from that interview from ABC News. At least Trump sits down for interviews and press conferences. And I'm telling you, but we're going to talk about all that. Okay? So, repeat after me. The company operates the global economy. The company doesn't own everything, blah, 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 blah. The company operates the global economy, going as far back as the Sumerian Empire, but apparently the original company was exterminated and replaced by the people we call the Jews, including the 10 lost tribes of the mythological kingdom of Israel that never existed, and yet here they are running the global economy. Not purely for their own benefit, but they're the bankers, the lawyers, the accountants, the blah, blah, blahs. Are you with me? If not, read this book. The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills, published 1956. He was inspired by Franz Leopold Neumann's book Behemoth about what really went on inside the Third Reich. You need to read that book. You need to read Behemoth by Franz Leopold Neumann, and you need to read The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills. And he was not only lefty, he was not only pink, he's the one who turned Harvard pink. He's the guy. Harvard was a Church of England divinity school until this guy turned it pink and then dropped dead, supposedly, at a suspiciously young age. Okay? Read these books, The Power Elite and Behemoth. So ever since the Babylonian captivity, the company has been operating the global economy. Now, let's catch up. Now, the company and the Ottomans, this is kind of post-Crusades. You know all about the Templars and who are the others? There's two. The Teutonic Knights. The Templars had the white tunic with the red cross. The so-called Teutonic Knights had the black cross. You don't know jack shit about the Teutonic Knights yet. But you think you know about the Templars. So tonight let's talk more about the Ottomans, because this has more to do with the Silk Road. The Templars are the guys who have always remained plugged in to the spice road through their Arab contacts in North Africa and Egypt. Are you with me? Whereas the Silk Road was legally open to Christians for trade, and the Ottoman Turks take this over. They take over Turkey. 1453. The global economy is cut in two by the Ottoman Turks. But here's what's interesting about what happens next. Remember the great Irish explorer Cristoforo Colombo was not looking for, nor did he promise, a western route to get plugged in to the Silk Road. Remember, Christopher Columbus was looking for the eastern end of the Spice Road. He was looking for the Spice Islands, which, because of him, became known as the East Indies, as opposed to the West Indies. You talk about a coincidence. He found it was exactly where he thought it would be. So, this is 1492. This is like he was born. Was he born the year the Ottomans cut the Silk Road? They also conquer Egypt or whatever. They cut off access to the Spice Road. So my point is, Columbus is not looking for the eastern end of the Silk Road. He tells everybody, this is the official history. He's looking for the access to the Spice Road. This is what he's looking for. When we come back to the Dutch East India Company, you know what they were looking for, right? But you know nothing about the Dutch East India Company. My ancestors may have been shareholders. I forgot to look that up. So anyway, why aren't my ancestors operating the global economy? Frankly, they script a few plays over the years. It is a meritocracy to a great extent. It's primarily a meritocracy. And the Americans really drove that home. This is a meritocracy. In practice, maybe not always, but we certainly believe in the meritocracy. So, my family did not cut all of the mustard. In 3,000 years, you're going to have a stumble or two. Well, anyway, my point is this. He was looking for the Spice Road. The company, okay, which includes the Drapers Guild, they're cut off from the Silk Road as well. So they decide to throw in their lot with the hated Templars. But first, as you may recall, there's been a hostile takeover of the Templar operation. We'll come back to all of that. We will come back to that. I want to focus on the stuff you don't know so much about. So the Drapers Guild, they have only a few options. Money evaporates. The company motto is, having money is not the same thing as making money. All right, tattoo that on your back of your pretty little heads. Having money is not the same thing as making money. They got to make money. How are they going to do this? They got to reopen these trade routes. Silk Road, Schmilk Road. Besides, Europe kind of has its own silk industry going anyway. And the wool industry is growing like gangbusters. This is due in large part to the hard-working genius of the Templars. The Templars were more than just bankers. Everything the church set out to be as the ecclesia, like a monastery, or the church would be like a commercial enterprise, the Templars really made it successful. They're like a parallel, or they're an ecclesia within the ecclesia, really. They're a company within the company. They're the company's first spinoff, really. Like how Casey's is a spinoff of Walmart. That kind of a thing. And they really take the monastic style factory, the monastic, which the monastery is based on the old Roman villa, which was more than just a farm. It was a factory. It was everything. It was a factory town in and of itself. The Romans invent that. And then the monastery kind of mimics that. Some monasteries. It just depends on what their function was. But then the Templars, so we'll come back to that, okay? So what do the Medici and all these people invest money in? The Bardi, what do they invest money in? They have to invest money in these Western expeditions, these frantic attempts to sail across the edge of the world and see if we can link up with the Spice Road. And who knows, maybe the Silk Road. They don't seem to have cared or known that the Silk Road could be reached from the east coast of China. They seem to be mostly concerned with finding the Spice Road. Or maybe that's just what the explorers like the great Irish explorer Christopher Colombo, the information they got from their Arab friends. So they invest the money for... Columbus is not the Elon Musk of the age of exploration. Columbus is the Steve Wozniak. The Elon Musks come along later, right? They always do. Elon Musk is not Henry Ford. Elon Musk is Andrew Carnegie. Elon Musk is not Cornelius Vanderbilt. He didn't build a railroad. Elon Musk is Andrew Carnegie. He showed them how to manage their railroad more profitably. That's Elon Musk. Okay? So this is the company. The company has all this money lying around that they've made. The Drapers Guild, the Drapers companies have this money lying around. So they loan it to these new companies, right, who go off in search of access to the spice road. This was a map of the world by Henricus Martellus of Florence in 1491. This is Columbus's map he's relying on. It's not that far across here to get to the Spice Islands. And see, they know about this continent with a long peninsula, and then east of that peninsula, there's a big island, Chipangu, Japan. So when Columbus finds Chipangu, he calls it Chipangu, but that's why we call it Cuba to this day, is because Columbus thought it was Chipangu. And behind that, there's some more islands, and that's exactly what Columbus found, the peninsula of Florida and all these islands. The Korean peninsula. That's what he found. And brought back some spicy food. He brought back tacos, and the world went berserk. Did he bring back tobacco? But this is what he was looking for, the Spice Islands, not the Silk Road. Just remember that little thing. Reborn in the Republic of Genoa, his father was Domenico Colombo, a wool weaver. Oh, well, speaking of coincidences... Traveled as far south as Ghana. Married a Portuguese noblewoman, Filipa Muniz Perestrello, who bore us... Wasn't he? He stopped on his way back. He stopped in Lisbon on his way back, right? He stopped in Portugal on his way back. He stopped in Lisbon on his way back. So, while Columbus is going around shopping this plan, and he pitched it, but he didn't pitch it to Henry Tudor, did he? Did he pitch it to... He couldn't have pitched it to Richard II. Columbus pitched his plan to Henry Tudor, and Henry Tudor turned him down, which is interesting, because John Cabot came along 2 years later when Columbus got back, and he jumped on the opportunity to hire John Cabot, who was financed by the House of Bardeen. While Henry Tudor was in exile in France, while his mother, Margaret Beaufort, stayed behind in England, machinating on his behalf. Don't underestimate women. Ask Bill Clinton. Don't underestimate women. Henry Tudor, King Henry VII, founder of the Tudor dynasty, the propagandist, the Tudor rose. It's a white rose embedded in a red rose. It's really cool. Henry Tudor, while he lived on the continent, was initiated into the Order of the Golden Fleece. Just so you know. The Distinguished Order of the Golden Fleece is a Catholic order of chivalry founded in 1430 in Bruges by Philip the Good, Duke of Burgundy, to celebrate his marriage to Isabella of Portugal. Today, 2 branches of the order exist, namely the Spanish Fleece, blah, 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 blah. Current Grand Masters are King Felipe VI of Spain and Karl von Habsburg, headed the House of Habsburg-Lorraine. There is still a Habsburg at the head of the House of Habsburg today. And he is co-Grand Master of the Distinguished Order of the Golden Fleece, along with King Felipe of Spain. And who was the first joint stock company to be issued a coat of arms, just like a noble man? Be legally treated as a person? Current knights of the Spanish Order include Emperor Akihito of Japan, former Tsar Simeon of Bulgaria, and various princesses and princes. This is Jason and the Argonauts in their pursuit of the Golden Fleece. He also brings back Medea. I bring this up because, speaking of the company, the story of Jason, is there a slide about this? The story of Jason seems to be set approximately 1300 BC, before the Trojan War, certainly before the Trojan War. It is the epic story of trade opening up between Greece and the east shore of the Black Sea. And the south shore of the Black Sea becomes Bithynia, right? Jason is a Jewish name. And his voyage opens up trade from Greece all the way across the Black Sea. That's approximately the time that the Egyptians conquered the whole Levant on up into past Ephesus, into Turkey, for whatever that's worth. But apparently the Trojan War destroyed that world that had been established. That world based on trade that had been established was destroyed by the Trojan War. You have all this upheaval. There's a dark age, the first dark age, the post-Minoan age. There are ecological catastrophes. There are political catastrophes. The Distinguished Order of the Golden Fleece. John Cabot was a navigator and explorer. His 1497 voyage to the coast of North America, all those old Viking settlements. You've seen that documentary, right? Vikings in America? I'll find that when I get done. Let me finish this, and then before we jump over to Rumble. Professor at the University of Florence found some of Ruddock's documentation confirming that Cabot received money in March 1496 from the Bardi family banking firm of Florence. This is their money. You know how we know it's their money? It has their coat of arms printed on it. That's how we know it's their money. They loaned kings their money, and it's their money. And they expected to get not only their money back, but some of the king's money on top to boot. This is called interest, which Christians aren't supposed to charge each other. The house of Rothschild, supposedly their coat of arms was red shield with 5 golden arrowheads, or 5 golden arrows. So you see the trend here. This is Bardee. This is their money that they made. They made money. They knew the difference between having money and making money. House of Bardee made money. House of Denari made money. House of Medici made money. Are you with me? They made money. They made money. They did not have toilet paper. They made money. Are you with me? The Bardee Company is one of 3 major Florentine banking companies called super companies by some modern scholars. Yeah, we sure do. Assembled large amounts of capital and established wide-ranging, diversified business networks. There's no new thing under the sun. Oil and wine, close economic ties to Italy and Sicily. The chief product, however, was high-quality woolen cloth. House of Bardee made money from trafficking in wool and wool-based products. From that, they made money. Bardee were largest of these super companies, 50% larger than their closest rival, the Peruzzi Company. In 1344, at about the same time as the Peruzzi Company, the Bardee Company went bankrupt, and the Florentine writer Giovanni Villani blamed this on their repudiation of war loans by King Edward III of England. John Cabot didn't show up with a warrant of replevin and foreclose on the Kingdom of England. How long was Henry Tudor king before he hired Edward owed the Bardee 900,000 gold florins, or whatever. Gold florin, minted in the Republic of Florence after the sack of Constantinopolis by the Fourth Crusade, disrupted the minting of fine gold coins in the Byzantine capital. They started making their own money. I think I made my point. High quality woolen cloth, traded all over the world. Silk isn't very warm, and there are some cold places in China. This is Jason and the Argonauts. Once you make contact with Colchis, Colchis was a trading depot on what becomes the Silk Road. This is cut off by the Ottoman takeover of Turkey in 1453. In response to this, the Muscovy Company, or Muscovy Trading Company, was an English trading company chartered in 1555. It was the first major chartered joint stock company, the precursor of the type of business that would soon flourish in England and finance its exploration of the world. We still live it today. The Muscovy Company traces its roots to the Company of Merchant and Venturers to New Lands. The Mystery and Company of Merchant and Venturers. Say that 5 times. Merchant and Company of Merchant Adventurers for the discovery of regions, dominions, islands, and places unknown. Founded in 1551 by Richard Chancellor Sebastian Cabot and Sir Hugh Willoughby. Seal of the Muscovy Company. Sebastian Cabot, son of Giovanni Cabot. And yes, progenitors of the Cabot Lodge dynasty. Well, you may or may not recall that Queen Elizabeth I, the Great, Elizabeth the Great, her spymaster and astrologer and alchemist, John Dee, his father Roland was a mercer and gentleman courtier to Henry VIII. His father was a mercer in the wool trade, a member of the Drapers Guild. I forgot the point about Edward Kelly. He's also a Freemason before they were Freemasons, right? William Shaw, the Master of Works to King James VI of Scotland, first of England. Scientific Masonry in 1590. He established scientific masonry in 1598 upon the death of Edward Kelly, an associate or rival or whatever of John Dee, Edward Kelly. Okay? In his memory, William Shaw, the Master of Works to King James, established scientific masonry. All new Masons must now demonstrate mastery of science education, and the art of memory is taught by Rosicrucians and other. And you see all of this esoteric mumbo jumbo comes into Freemasonry in 1598, after the death of Edward Kelly. It officially enters. But there's a guy in Norway who just published a book, obscure book about all of the Nordic mythology that's in Freemasonry. Now that we've run right straight back into the Freemasons again, French Catholic Freemasonry aristocrats. After the French Revolution, the Jesuit Augustin Baruel wrote that Freemasons had actively prepared the 1789 revolution, which has been used to back theories of a Masonic plot. This thesis was often reprised later, notably during the French Third Republic, by Catholic authors using it to oppose both the Republic and Freemasonry, and by Freemasonry so as to enforce their pro-Republican stance and their positive image with the Republican government. So a lot of the French aristocracy become Freemasons. Father Augustin Baruel. Memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobinism, a French Jesuit priest, written and published in French in 1797-98 and translated into English in 1799. I only bring it up because one of my Irish ancestors was an Irish Jacobite. Now, you have to remember the Jacobite cause was very modern. You had mercenaries from every stripe and cloth you can imagine fighting against each other. So they launched this rear attack on the Duke of Monmouth because everybody knows the Duke of Monmouth is going to make a play for the throne of England. So my ancestors are part of this campaign to attack him strategically, if not tactically, from the rear. We are defeated. As punishment, we are not executed. We are transported to America and dumped in what becomes Pennsylvania in 1671. My ancestor Macomb. A few years later, the Duke of Monmouth thinks he's got his shit together. He makes a lunge for the throne of England. He is defeated. He's executed. So, guess who got the last fucking laugh? But a lot of us in America, not technically slaves, but just dumped off in the wilderness as punishment for we were political prisoners. I am on the Irish side of the family, I'm a 10th generation political prisoner of the British in America. Burwell claims that the French Revolution was the result of a deliberate conspiracy or plot to overthrow the throne, alter an aristocratic society in Europe. Well, it was. There was a plan. I mean, they talked about it all the time. The plot was allegedly hatched by a coalition of philosophers, Freemasons, and the Order of the Illuminati. Yeah, pretty much. The conspirators created a system that was inherited by the Jacobins, who operated it to its greatest potential. This is all according to Augustin Baruel. The storm against the Jesuits in France drove him from his country, and he was occupied in college work in Moravia and Bohemia until the suppression of the order in 1773. If you believe anything a Jesuit tells you. I do. Freemasons and the American Revolution. Washington, Captain George Washington, joined Freemasonry in the lodge at Fredericksburg, Virginia at the age of 20. Cost him £2 to join. Third degree, August 4th, 1753. He also visited King Solomon's Lodge in Poughkeepsie, New York on December 27th, 1783. Oh, I thought he was busy fighting a war of independence. This is his Masonic portrait in his Masonic apron, doing his Masonic things to his Masonic Bible. The Bible he was sworn into office on acting as Grand Master Pro Tem, he presided at the Masonic ceremonial laying of the United States Capitol cornerstone. Oh, that apron that he's wearing in that painting? That was a gift from a French lodge in 1793. What a shock. George Washington University is literally a wash in Freemasonry. It's also known as Spy School USA. Joshua Bloomer, the first graduate of Columbia University, was a Freemason. And he donated the Masonic Bible that George Washington took the oath of office on. 1769, he settled in Jamaica as rector of the church. In 1790, at Columbia College conferred upon him the honorary degree of Doctor of Sacred Theology. And the same year, he died in Jamaica at the age of 55. He donated this Bible that George Washington took the oath of office on. In 1818, future President Andrew Jackson led covert invasion and insurgency in Florida. Occupied Pensacola with his troops for 14 days in 1818 after the Spanish surrender. The United States occupied the area of Pensacola for 9 months until February 8, 1819. I have asked you people repeatedly for information about tunnels underneath Pensacola, Florida, and you have responded. I have not responded to your response yet. Any more information you may have, bearing this in mind. Jackson belonged to Harmony Lodge No. 1 in Tennessee. It was in the year 1823 he was appointed to serve as the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Tennessee. To this day, he remains one of 2 presidents to serve as a Grand Master in the United States. What about, did they serve as Grand Masters in other countries? Well, what does any of this have to do with the price of eggs? Okay. The answer to that question is, what do Abraham Zapruder, Ukrainian-born American clothing manufacturer, studying English at night, he found work as a clothing pattern maker in Manhattan's Garment District. Zapruder was a Freemason and an Inspector General, 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite. He moved to Dallas 3 years before Marguerite Oswald. In 1941, Zapruder moved to Dallas, Texas to work for Nardis, a local sportswear company. In 1949, he co-founded Jennifer Juniors, producing the Chalet and Jennifer Juniors brands of dresses. From the summer of 53 to April 1954, Zapruder worked at Nardis side by side with Jeanne Lagon, future wife of Georges de Mohrenschildt. His Jennifer Juniors offices were on the 4th floor of the Dow Tex building across the street from the Texas School Book Depository. Why didn't he stand in front of his own office? Or better yet, why didn't he just shoot the parade going by from his own office window? Why did he go across the street where he could not see? Here's the building. Here's Oswald shooting the president. This is a bird's eye view from and Zapruder's over here. He can't see Oswald. Why didn't Zapruder shoot from his side of the street? Why do you have to come over to this side of the street where he can't look up and see Oswald? Why is that? Why don't you ask the 33rd degree Masons and see what they know about it? Nobody ever talks about Oswald's mother. Nobody liked Oswald's mother. She's a horrible person. A horrible person. 1939, Marguerite Oswald's second husband, Robert Edward Lee Oswald, died of a heart attack before Lee Harvey was technically born, right? During her separation from her first husband, Marguerite, who is Quebecois, by the way, saw a great deal of Robert Edward Lee Oswald, an insurance premium collector. Oh, could you let me slide for a month? Well, that depends, ma'am. What do I get? That was the job I applied for, and they ended up making me fraud investigator. I don't know why. Who also was married but was separated from his wife. In 1933, Marguerite was divorced from Pick, and Oswald's wife also having obtained a divorce. They were married in a Lutheran church on July 20th. Marguerite has described the period of her marriage to Oswald as the only happy part of her life. A son was born on April 7th, 1934, who was named for his father. Oswald wanted to adopt John Pick, but his mother objected on the ground that John's father might cut off the support payments. Well, you have to be a hard-headed pragmatist in 1934. The motto of the company is, business is business. In 1938, the Oswalds purchased a new house on Alvar Street for $3,900 in what John remembered as a rather nice neighborhood. The house was across the street from the William Frantz School, which first John and later both he and Robert Jr. attended. On August 9, 1939, a little more than a year after the Oswalds bought the Alvar Street house, Robert Oswald died suddenly of a heart attack. So the second husband dies 1939. Oh, yeah. 2 months later, on October 18th, 1939, a second son was born. He was named Lee. So she's getting support payments for John Pick, and she's got whatever insurance benefits she got from Robert Edward Lee Oswald, and one less mouth to feed. Died suddenly of a heart attack. A lot of people died suddenly of heart attacks in those days. You could die of a heart attack at 29, nobody would blink. Heart attack. In July of 1943, Mrs. Oswald was hired. Marguerite was hired to manage a small hosiery store. This is probably the store to which she referred in her testimony as the Princess Hosiery Shop on Canal Street. Blah, 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 blah. About this time, she met Edwin Ekdahl, an electrical engineer older than herself, who was originally from Boston but was then working in the area. Saw each other often. Ekdahl met the boys, and according to John's testimony, on at least one occasion, they all spent a weekend at a summer resort area in Covington, Louisiana. Blah, 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 blah. In the meantime, she would care for Ekdahl, who was recovering from a serious illness, probably a heart attack. You know what can easily be mistaken for a heart attack? Cyanide poisoning. Cyanide poisoning can easily be mistaken for a heart attack, even if you recover. Testified that when she arrived in Dallas, at Ekdahl's expense, she decided she did not want to marry Ekdahl after all. With a mother like that, how could a boy possibly turn out bad? People couldn't stand her. She sold souvenirs off the front porch of her house after Lee Harvey was executed. And of course, she sold interviews, and she charged a lot of money. She bought a house on Victor Street and rented out part of it. She put the boys in an orphanage all the time. Then she went from August of 52 to January 54, Marguerite Oswald worked at the learner shops in the Bronx. Did I remember this slide? No. In 53 to 54, where was 53 to 54? Zapruder worked at Nardis in Dallas, Texas. In 54, he left Nardis to found his own company, and in 54, Marguerite snatches. They want to do something with Lee Harvey, so she takes him back to Dallas. But she worked at learner shops in the Bronx, and then she moves to Dallas at the same time that Zapruder opens up his own company across the street from the Texas Book Depository. Whatever the hell that proves. What does all that have to do with Gaston Bullock Means, let alone the company? Gaston Bullock Means, 1920, worked as a private investigator for the Cannon Mill offices. You ever buy Cannon towels or Cannon sheets? Cotton mills in the South. Gaston Bullock Means went to work as their private dick. Gaston Bullock Means is the great nephew of Confederate States Brigadier General Behringer. Behringer's mixed-race son Warren, Clay Coleman, was the first African American to own a textile mill in the United States. What does that have to do with Ruth Baker Pratt and Bill Donovan? Ruth Baker Pratt was born as Ruth Sears Baker in Ware, Massachusetts, to Carrie V. Baker and Edwin H. Baker, a cotton manufacturer. You don't say. What does that have to do with James Baker, Secretary of State? Pratt attended Dana Hall. Pratt studied mathematics at Wellesley College. She also studied music at the Conservatory of Liege. Pratt was a presidential elector for Warren G. Harding and Calvin Coolidge. Member of the Board of Aldermen of New York City, being the first woman elected to serve. First female representative to be elected from New York. She happened to be, what the hell does this have to do with Bill Donovan? Ask me, I'll show you what this has to do with the Pratt Institute and Bill Donovan. Because she and Bill Donovan were very close friends, but probably not lovers. She was probably a lesbian. And all of that, and the Son of Sam. When John Deal when Christine Freund got shot, the very first newspaper article, January 31st, 1977, with her friend John Deal, a knitting mill executive. I don't think he was necessarily. I think it was probably more likely her father, because she worked for the family company back in Austria for a few years. soon as she got out of high school, she went to work for the family business. She went to work for the company back in Vienna or whatever town. And she came back to the United States and got the job at... But John Deal may have been a knitting mill executive. He might have been a consulting engineer or something. Well, Christine Freund, when she got back to the States, remember I talked about her family, she went to work at Reynolds Securities in 1972. She worked directly for David P. Reynolds as a German language secretary for him. You know, a German English secretary. August 13th, 1976, she went to work at Reynolds Securities in 1972. August 13th, 1976, she went to work for David P. Reynolds himself. At the same time that Joanne Lamino started her job at Food Pageant, remember the store managers would call in their inventory and she'd get all that into a spreadsheet for her boss, a handmade spreadsheet, so he would know what to send out to the stores, and he would decide. Remember, she worked at Food Pageant Central Office, and Carl signed up for the United States Air Force. And they opened their new office at 55 Wall Street, where Carl would go to work later. David P. Reynolds, Reynolds Aluminum, Reynolds Metals, Racehorses Polo, and very close partnership with PepsiCo, getting Pepsi to switch to aluminum cans or to start using aluminum cans. Anybody know who that guy is? What does this have to do with Oswald and JFK? When Richard Nixon was in Dallas, the 21st and 22nd, he wasn't there to meet oil company executives. He was there to meet this man. Do you remember who this guy is? Chairman of the board of PepsiCo? That's who he was there to meet. Remember, I already showed you some things PepsiCo and the CIA were doing in Africa and South America, right? Well, Mr. Reynolds created the Keep America Beautiful campaign and then gave himself the Keep America Beautiful award. Well, what the fuck do PepsiCo and JFK have to do with Charles Manson, David Berkowitz, and the Zodiac Killer?
When the Nugan Hand Bank of Sydney, Australia collapsed in 1980, it appeared at first glance to be just another bank failure. But after Australian authorities began taking a closer look, they discovered a tangled web of intrigue with all the elements of a best-selling spy novel. A mysterious death, the body later dug up from its grave, illegal currency transactions, big-time drug operations, and the Central Intelligence Agency.
Have you ever noticed banks only fail when they use Uncle Sucker's money? Have you ever noticed no bank ever failed using their own money? You ever notice that? I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan, asking you to please stay plugged in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
He reads everything.
You better bet your bippies he reads everything. Okay, what time is it? Have I got time? I got time. I got dinner in the oven. I got pork roast in the oven. Let me get this Rumble stream set up, and we'll head over there, and I'll do some more clips from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy so you guys can get caught up on that. What I really ought to do... There we go. You don't need to concern your pretty little heads about what I'm doing over here. Now would be a good time to go make some popcorn. Blah, blah, blah. This will take a second. For one thing, no. But I will upload the episode I just recorded. I'll upload that to Locals, but this is Rumble. So let me get the stream set up, and then I'll give you the link, and you can get your Heiners over there. Heiners? Your Hinders? It's past my bedtime. What am I doing? Make a video. Go live. There we go. Set up a live stream. Create a new live stream. Use this template. There we go. What is today? 2025.05.02. This year's a third of the way over already. Let's see. Oh, I know. Let me see. I need to copy and paste this. Kind of like YouTube, and it's kind of not like YouTube. How do I edit? Can I edit this? Do I need to edit this? I think I can just do this. You need to see this information because you need to know about the real life Dmitry Polikov. And I just think it's fascinating that John Le Carre knew all about the real life Dmitry Polikov when he wrote the book Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. He knew all about it.
This is not a scam. All Americans can apply for the
Okay. 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 Let me make it like 10 minutes from now. It'll be public. What does it say? Time in the future. Okay. Here's the link. Hi, Shane. You think Kissinger probably was a member of the Golden Fleece? Okay, and I'll also add this to the description of this video. Okay, so I'm going to get off of here right now. So this is part 2 of Tinker Tailor, and so here's the new link to the live stream. I hope that works. Let's see what it does. Then I'll get off here. Looks like it. That should work. It should be free. But follow. Just click the follow. Don't join. Don't pay any money. Just unless you want ad free. Just click to follow. If you pay the $5 a month, but don't do that until I tell you. I get like $3.75 or something. But don't pay it at this point. Just pay for YouTube at this point. I'll tell you when you need to pay me more money. Okay? So, let me get off here and I'll see you guys over there. All right? Mwah. Put that wherever you want. And I will see you toot sweet. Nope. The hell did I just do? Right? That's right. Okay.